everybody. It is Trauma Week, which is my favorite makeup week. Usually I get to come to class in person and then make at least 2 to 5 of you look like you've been through some serious stuff. But this year, since we're not in person, I'll just do it to myself, which will not be as much fun, but it will be okay. So we call this trauma makeup. And trauma makeup, we're going to focus on bruises, cuts, and deep flesh wounds. I'll probably split this into different videos, but we'll see. If any of you are interested in this, or you do this project and you're like, wow, this is my true calling, there is a whole field called moulage, M-O-U-L-A-G-E, moulage makeup, where essentially you are a makeup artist who applies makeup to actors, so that physicians, doctors, medics in training can sort of triage them and practice their skill sets. So this isn't, I'm not even talking about doing, professional makeup for film or theater or television. I'm talking about there's a whole field of people who do makeup specifically so that doctors can practice on people, which is really cool. So if this is like your passion, then that's awesome. But also know too that, you've got so many makeup artists out there who, their bread and butter is kind of doing this kind of trauma makeup. So you might find this is your passion, which is awesome. So we're going to break this up into a couple of different things. We're going to do bruises first, and then, I might do a second video that'll cover cuts, and then a third video for the deep flesh wounds. So to start off with our bruises, I haven't put any makeup on except for I did put on lipstick. To show. Anyway, the point is, you don't need to put any makeup on unless you want to. With your character design for this, and you can have your trauma affecting your face, your arms, your leg, your whole body. You can go all out for this. I will be awarding extra credit for the more extra you are. The only limitations I'm putting on you are no bar fights. Don't say that your character has gotten into a bar fight. Over the last 10 years, I have graded far too many bar fights. So there's no more bar fights. But you do need to think about how your character got these injuries, whether they are face, body, however you want to work it out. Were they in a fight that was not a bar fight? Were they in a car accident? Have they been shot? Have they been stabbed? Did they fall off a mountain? Were they attacked by a vampire? Are they James Bond? Are they a superhero? Whatever. You can literally pick anything you want except for a bar fight as the reason you got your injuries. But once you pick that, you need to do some research. Research for the trauma makeup is always tricky because there will be a lot of makeup out there, and some of it can look like really good trauma makeup, and it can be convincing and make you think that this is an actual injury. So that's one of the problems with doing research for this. The other problem for doing research for trauma makeup is that there's a lot of blood, and there's some exposed inside human parts that you might not want to see. So I will say, be careful when you're doing your Google searches for this, because you do not want to submit a makeup trauma image as your research, because I will take off points for that. And you don't want to throw up while you're researching. So, protect yourself in that sense. I found over the years that if you are really specific with your search words, then sometimes that's helpful. Looking at sports injuries like hockey and boxing and even football can be really helpful in getting good face injuries. Domestic abuse will pull up some good things, awful things, but useful research, not good things at all. Really think about that. Think about what kind of injuries you're looking at. But I'm completely serious about this, that you will find some gruesome things. So, be safe when you're searching for those things. Now, in addition to thinking about what kind of injuries you've sustained, whether they're car accident, boxing, or vampire, you want to think about where on the face these types of injuries are likely to happen. For example, your lips split fairly easily because this is very sensitive, tender skin, right? Your eyes bruise very easily for the same reason. This is very sensitive skin, and that it bruises easily, which is why most of us, me especially, walk around with bags under our eyes because that's essentially bruised skin. Likewise, you can get cuts very easily along this brow ridge where you don't have as much fat here. So anywhere that the skin and your bone underneath are in close proximity, that's going to create a place that any kind of extreme force or tension can tear that easily. So along here, throughout your nose area, along the jawline a little bit, the high cheekbone, all of that is going to, you know, when you have a really good punch right here, that's why you can also get some good splits happening here as well. The same thing for above the brow. Now, if we're talking about sort of blunt force trauma, you know, if you've been hit with something, then that will do other damage. Or, you know, I was doing some hockey image research before this. If you get hit with a skate, you know, that's a blade. It's gonna put a hole wherever it goes. So like you can have a huge gash coming through here, or missing part of your lip or your forehead, or there's all kinds of things. But with bruises, we want to really think about how that's going to change the face. And you also want to think about the lifetime of a bruise. Now, when a bruise is very, very fresh, it's going to just be red and swollen, right? So you're going to have some pinkness and some redness, and it's going to be swollen. And then over time, that bruise is going to get darker. So you're going to get some more reds and some purples, maybe even some black in there. Still some swelling, but as the swelling goes down, it's going to get a little bit darker. And then as that blood tends to, because basically those are burst capillaries and things, right? And it's little kind of like baby blood clots under your skin, and that's what's discoloring it. As that heals and your skin regenerates and that blood goes away, then you're going to see the evolution of those colors to yellows and greens, and it's going to linger in the yellows for a little while, and then that'll go away and you'll get your natural skin tone back. So you want to think, are these fresh injuries or are these old injuries? You know, are you presenting your character just stumbling out of the vampire attack, or have you, you know, are you in the hospital and they've cleaned up the blood and you're getting stitches? Either design is perfectly fine, but you want to think about that. So you want to think about kind of the aging of your bruises. Okay, so we're going to do bruises first, and then I'll talk more about the other things as we get to that. Now, things you will need for this. You need your wheal. You can put a foundation on if you want to. Again, I did not, because if I have the excuse to not put the foundation on, then I'm not going to put it on. So I have my bruise wheal. If you got the full kit, the full makeup kits, then you should have something called a stipple sponge. It's like a little dark gray, black rectangular cube thing that's got a bunch of holes in it. That's your stipple sponge. It's going to be your best friend. For all of us who did not get the kit, it's okay. We have other things we can use. Your makeup brushes are going to be your friends for this. I would encourage you to, you know, have a good selection at hand. If you also, by any chance, have like really crappy, really cheap watercolor brushes, those are also going to be really useful. If you have any sea sponges, those are going to be helpful. If you can get your hands on a weird, cheap exfoliating body sponge like I did from Target, that will also be useful. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to apply the bruising so that regardless of what equipment you have at hand, you'll be good to go. And I'm also going to show you some stuff with some Q-tips, again, just so you all have different options on how to apply this. And remember, however you found that works for you is totally fine. The only wrong way to do this project is by submitting research images that are in fact other people's makeup designs, and also be unable to open the Q-tips. Okay, I succeeded, so we're fine. Okay, so I'm going to open up my wheel here, and I generally like to go dark and then light. I think I've talked about that before with shadow application. For my bruises, I like to do a little bit of red first, so I can kind of figure out what area I'm doing, and then I'll come in with some dark, and then I'll layer that on top with some light again. So I'm going to start off with sort of, black eye area right here, right? And I'm going to use this brush, which is a makeup brush. It almost looks like a stencil brush, like if you've ever done like stenciling work. I genuinely do not know what I would use this for if not for strange makeup things, because I don't know. So I'm going to start off by getting some red on that brush, and I'm just going to pull it on here, and you'll notice that on me this red is like so orange, it's terrifying, and that's okay. Okay, so I've got some red happening there, right? So I just sort of stippled it on, and then I tapped it in to kind of blend a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and do just a touch of black. I'm not going to do much black. A little black goes a long, long way. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and do some of the purple, the violet. Okay, and now I'm going to come back and do a little bit more red on top of that. Okay, so that's a pretty like lightweight, shall we say, bruise. Like this is not terribly intense. It's pretty well blended. This looks like, oh, I fell into something, or I got hit, or something bad happened, but you know, not the end of the world. I'll be okay. Now, if we want to take it up a couple of notches, we're going to come in with some more of the purple, the more of the violet, and we're going to get up in here. A little black. Okay, so that is a worse bruise. That is a sadder thing that happened to me. I generally never use just one tool for doing makeup application, so that was new for me. But yeah, so that is a one tool bruise. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and show us a bruise with let's do a Q-tip this time and see what we think about this. So we're going to use a Q-tip. You've all seen Q-tips. I have no idea why I had the need to show that to you. Okay, so we're going to start off with red again, and let's see. Let's give it down here. So, and again, the lip is really fun to play with because you can get some nice bruising action happening, and you can also incorporate some cuts, which is super fun. Okay, so I've got my red base on there. I'll go ahead and do a little bit of black. Do a little more black. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do some of my violet. Now, if you have your stipple sponge, you're going to be like, man, this is the easiest stuff ever. I love it. Likewise, if you have one of those natural sea sponges, it's just going to be such a walk in the park for you. But, again, we're doing this without those, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to come back with some more red. I think makeup this semester is all about figuring out how to make things work with what you've got on hand, which, to be perfectly honest, is a lot of what makeup is and theater is in general. I need to find this podcast. There's an interview with one of the makeup artists from The Walking Dead, and she does a lot of horror films, and she talks about all the different effects that she's used in her career and like the different things they use, like all the different gelatins, but also like, you know, say for example, you have a character that's gonna have to eat brains or heart or something, and like what are you gonna use for that? And so she talks about like using like spaghetti noodles to be brains, and like, you know, what kind of stuff do you use for actors to vomit and things like that. Yeah, it's all really fascinating. So I'm gonna see if I can find that for you guys. It's always been a dream of mine to make that a project, to require you to make edible trauma. So like, you know, maybe you have an injury that you have to eat out of, or like something like that. Okay, it's pretty sad. I've had a rough day. Haven't we all though? It's 2020. A little bit more red. Sorry, my nose itched. Okay, sad times in the bathroom. Okay, so now we're going to do let's see, what am I going to use for this last one? I'm going to use that terrible sponge thing I was talking about. I want to try to rip it up. Of course, I do own knives in this house, but I did not bring one into the bathroom with me. So you get to watch me awkwardly struggle with this and then give up because I realized it's just stuffed with a makeup sponge. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, so now free sponge, but that's not the part I wanted. I wanted this outside part anyway. Okay. You can buy those, the little black stipple sponges at Party City or Target or CVS as part of those Halloween makeup kits. So you can get them for like $5, but I refuse to spend $5 on that when I could spend $5 on this pain and torture. So, you know, you do what you want. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give me a bruise going into my hairline here. Almost as if I've got a bit of a, what do you call it, a goose egg? It's kind of like I got sunburned except for that one little spot, right? Okay, so just a touch of black. Gonna do some violet. Okay, I'm gonna come back over that with a little more red. Okay, remember how I was like, I'm not putting foundation on because I hate foundation. So if you notice that you're like way too red, like, oh, have I been, you know, attacked by, I don't know, a tanning bed? Then you'll want to come in with some of your foundation and sponge a bit of that on. So I've got my favorite stick foundation, which I am going to use. I was thinking about doing a powder for a second. I think I'm gonna stick to this. So I'm actually gonna use a different part of the sponge that I haven't already gotten blood all over. And I'm just gonna okay. And now I lied. I'm gonna come back and do some of that powder because I'm not entirely happy with that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my handy dandy friend, that Q-tip. And again, I was saying that we're kind of gonna goose egg this guy. So we're gonna imagine this is like the rounded bottom shadow edge of it. Okay, I come back with a little bit of purple. I'm just gonna blend this down. Okay, now I'm going to add a bit of a highlight using my old friend, the concealer. A little more violet. A little more red. Oh, you're welcome for that hair. Oh. Okay. I don't like the shape of that. Maybe it should have been bigger. There we go. Okay, so this is all two-dimensional makeup, by which I mean we haven't put on any nose and scar wax or any latex. So I'm gonna stop this, clean up my face, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna do some three-dimensional bruising, which will be super fun. Okay, here we go.